Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode on Cloud Launch and Learn. We are continuing our series of how to become a cloud architect with Turja. Hey Turja, welcome to the studio.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Alan. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you back again on a kind of continuing the part two here. So
Yes.
today we are going to, as we mentioned, go more into details how to become a cloud architect. And just to speak a little bit about Turja, he's assistant director, and he has been doing some architecture way back for a couple of years now, and he's also trying to help the people who are on that path. So, would you like just to speak a couple of words about that, Turja?
Yeah, sure, Alan. Thank you. Yeah, I have been working on this space for around 5 years now,
Mm-hmm.
mostly around AWS and Azure. And yes, I have worked with some pretty big clients and helping them on their kind of digital transformation journey. And over that journey myself, I have also learned about some of the tips and tricks concerning architecture, how to build well architected systems. And I really believe in giving back to the community because I have learned a lot from the community. So this is one of the initiatives that I am collaborating with the Cloud Lunch and Learn group and helping share my experience out there so that it can help somebody else.
That's awesome. Thank you. That's really great. And thank you everyone for joining this session. Without any overdue, let me introduce the session. It's continuation of how to become a cloud architect. If you would like to learn from Microsoft resources and Microsoft Learn Passes, there is a QCR code that you can scan and look into, or there is also a link under the Azure Architect certifications that you can, click and learn. Yeah, before jumping into session and introducing the Turja's sharing screen, I would like to give you a little bit kind of background in terms of there's like certain things that I was also working on to provide some help to the community, and one of those things is actually I'm doing under the cloudmarathoner.com. So if you go to that blog post, you will see that there's a series of blogs about how you can get into Azure Architect mindset and what are the things that you need to be prepared. It's a series of 12 blog posts. And so far, I cranked out and made ready five of them. And my plan is to release each week, release at least one part of it and complete the whole 12 series. And while reading through that and looking into the reference information, Microsoft docs and learning passes, you would also kind of get yourself prepared for that AZ305 exam, which is basically, it doesn't mean that once you pass the exam, you are kind of, expert in everything or so, but it is a learning pillar that you can use in order to advance your understanding and get into the shoes, into the mindset of becoming a cloud architect and what to expect and the expectations that are coming, with that role and title. Okay, without any overdue, Turja, would you like to bring your screen so we can share with the audience?
Sure. I've just started to share my screen. Elhan, let me know if
Yes,
it's
here it
visible.
is.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so
Mhm.
much. Thank you, everybody, for attending the part two of this three-part series on how to become a cloud architect. Again, a warm thank you to Azure Dublin Meetup Group and Cloud Lunch and Learn. Special thanks to Hugo Barona, with whom I collaborated extensively and who invited me to present at this session. And again, wonderful work, Elhan, you are doing for the community with the Cloud Marathoner thing. Good luck to you, and thank you for agreeing to moderate this session. Okay, so what is the overall agenda across the three parts? So as you can see from this diagram, so the part 2 and 3 is kind of based on what we already discussed in part 1. So to really make the most of this series, you should ideally start from part 1 and then move on to part 2 and part 3. Today we will discuss part 2. But what did we cover in part 1? So for people who are interested, you can go to Twitter or YouTube channel of Cloud Lunch and Learn and see the session also. It's around a 1 hour session where we covered mainly what is architecture, who are architects, why do we need architecture, why should I become a cloud architect, what is cloud architecture, and what is cloud native architecture. So all of these concepts at a high level the foundational concepts we discussed in part 1. And in part 2, we are going to build on those foundations. That is the idea. So we are currently have some idea of cloud architecture and so on, but we still need to be in a position where we can crack a cloud architecture interview. That is the final goal we have. So to come from here to there, we have to first understand what we need to focus. Then we need how to understand how to get started. And finally, we need some actionable steps, some actual steps that I can follow, some concrete steps or insights which will help me in getting started or continuing this journey over some time. So, hopefully, with all of this, I have your attention. So, let me briefly introduce myself. I'm currently working as an assistant director in the cloud practice at EY, Ernst and Young. Before that, I led the Cloud Center of Excellence team at Accenture. I have around 10 plus years of IT experience and I have been working on the cloud, mainly public cloud, since 2017. But most importantly, and I want to focus on this for a minute, I successfully transitioned my career from being a C Sharp SQL developer to a cloud solution architect kind of role. So this is what I do now, a cloud solution slash SME kind of role. But what was my journey? So if you see this screen, you will see that from 2012 when I joined Samsung till 2017 when I was still with PwC, I had zero idea of cloud. It was only in 2017 that I first got introduced to Amazon Web Services. Between 2017 to 18, I did a lot of studying on AWS. And then in 2018, I finally joined Accenture as part of their cloud team. From 2018 to 2022, I have continued my cloud journey and I'm now working as a cloud architect slash cloud SME in EY. So this is kind of my overall journey from 2012 to 2022. But what actually happened in 2017-18? The first thing that happened was this realization that I needed to transition to something else. I personally believe this is the most important thing. You first need to realize that realization will drive everything else. Once I had that realization that I wanted to transition to some other kind of a career role, I documented my purpose or my future goals pretty clearly. So it was kind of like a one line purpose. I want to get a job as a cloud architect or a cloud SME. So that was my purpose to get into cloud technologies. Third, then I took appropriate steps to enable my cloud journey. So this is the third thing that we are going to discuss more in detail as part of this session. And I want to help you guys to do the same in case you guys are also interested in making this transition. So help me help you in transforming your career from whatever you are doing right now to a cloud architect slash SME kind of role. Some housekeeping stuff. I will try to leave some time at the end, and also this time I will leave some time in between to address any queries that you might have. And in case I cannot answer each and every question on chat, I will personally reach out to you and answer them later. You can connect with me also. No issues. So what did I learn from my session in part 1, which happened around 1 week back? So many of you who were present in this session on that session or saw the recording later, you gave some pretty extensive feedback. And in the spirit of continuous learning and reinforcement, I have tried to incorporate those suggestions into this talk as much as possible. So what did I change? So the first feedback I received from you that my last session was too long. So this time I have reduced it to around 40 minutes. You said there were less time for questions. So now with the reduced presentation time, we have more time for Q&A. You also said there was not a lot of interaction with the audience. So in this talk, after every major logical section, I will leave around 5 minutes for interaction with the audience, the moderator asking questions, and also having a candid discussion on any topic. And finally, you said you wanted more real life experiences. So this time I have modeled this entire talk around my personal experience, an completely true personal experience of moving from a traditional C Sharp come SQL role or background to a full-time cloud architect. So this is what I have focused on. Well then, let's get started. So let me introduce you to myself. I will use this persona to navigate the complex waters of cloud computing. And while doing that, I will also discuss possible solutions to some of the issues that I faced during my journey. To understand the context and also to get a little bit background on where I was, we need to get into a time machine and travel back to 2017. So let's just consider that this is 2017. I am employed as a C Sharp SQL developer in PricewaterhouseCoopers. I'm based out of Kolkata, India. So I mostly work in the Microsoft stack. In the front end, I work with .NET Forms, ASP.NET, .NET Core, little bit of HTML5, JavaScript, Bootstrap, AngularJS. In the backend, I mostly write stored procedures for SQL Server. I do a little bit of SSIS, SQL Server Integration Services, for data loading ETL, and I do a little bit of SSRS, reporting services for reporting. So I'm completely on the Microsoft stack. And what is my background? So in 2008 to 2012, I finished my bachelor's in computer science. I joined Samsung in 2012 as an Android engineer. From 2012 to 15, I mostly focused on Android. In 2015, I joined PwC as a software developer. So from 2015 to 2017, I was working on C Sharp and SQL. So no cloud knowledge whatsoever. So this is very important to understand. So the context I am giving right now, the perspective I have is from a person who has zero cloud knowledge, who doesn't even know what the cloud is. Okay. So overall, if you see, I was kind of frustrated at that time. So my career was undistinguished. I personally felt I was underpaid and overworked. I felt like I was doing the same thing for a long time now. My work was not exciting me enough. Most of all, I was not satisfied and I wanted to change or transition to something new. So, this is the realization part where I realized I wanted to transition to something new. It might be a new job, it might be a new technology, but I wanted to do something new. But getting a new job wasn't easy, right? I had no distinguishing skills, no company wanted to pay me more than what I was currently getting. There were too many engineers in the market with the same skill for me to be able to make a difference. Surprisingly, in some instances, and this is a true fact, sometimes even senior engineers with more experience were getting paid the same, if not less, in the Microsoft stack. So the technical stack that I was working on was not that much kind of like a niche stack. So I was not getting a lot of offers, exciting offers on this topic. But at this time, something very interesting happened for me, luckily. So when I was in PwC, I was part of this product that we had developed in house, which was hosted on premise on the client data center. It was a C Sharp SQL stack, as I said, but it was kind of deployed in every single client's data center. But we wanted at 2017ish, we wanted to move it to kind of like a SaaS multi-tenant solution. So at that time, it was decided by the leadership to transform this into an AWS application. Okay. So we wanted to move from this kind of monolith data center based single application that is hosted on every single client's data center to a multi-tenant AWS infrastructure based application. And this migration will happen via a combination of lift and shift and application modernization. This was my turning point. I knew that I needed to learn cloud computing and the associated technologies which are related to cloud, as it will quickly become the next big thing. And I also knew that this will be kind of my ticket to those high paying cloud architect slash SME jobs. But there were quite a few challenges I needed to overcome. And the rest of the talk will focus on those challenges and how I was able to successfully maneuver them. So, the first challenge, and this is something maybe many of you might also think when you're getting started, I was concerned about what will happen to my existing expertise in C Sharp and SQL programming and so on. So, whatever I've done for this first 5.5 years of my career, will it go to waste? So, I have heard many people also have this same question, and this is actually a myth. Many people might say that, okay, moving to the cloud means your existing expertise will go to waste. You need to start fresh, forget everything that you have learned. This is the biggest myth of all. No previous knowledge will go to waste, whether it is 5 years of knowledge, 10 years of knowledge, or 15 years of knowledge. If you start transitioning to cloud, nothing will go to waste. Actually, it will help you more in your journey. You will be able to pick up things quickly. You'll be able to map your existing knowledge to the cloud ecosystem better. So, this is a myth, and I want to debunk it here in front of you all. So, don't ever feel like this. Whatever you know still matters, and it will actually help you in your cloud journey. And just like this kind of slide shows, this diagram shows, it doesn't necessarily matter where you are right now. All roads lead to cloud architect. And this is a slide I used in my first presentation also. So it doesn't matter whether you are a developer or a programmer today, maybe tomorrow you will be a DevOps engineer for a SRE role, you can become a cloud architect. You might be in IT support today, you might be going into system engineering, DBA, you can still become a cloud architect. So it really doesn't matter a lot where you are if you actually want to become and you have the target state in mind. But what was the second challenge? And this was the most difficult challenge. Cloud looks so daunting at first. Many people have come up to me and said that, how do I start? What should I start with? Who should I reach out to? Who can help me on this journey? How can I quickly upskill or reskill myself without spending a lot of money or a lot of time? So I am sure any of you who have started on this cloud journey, maybe already doing or thinking about doing, have also faced this kind of a daunting start, and you have faced kind of overwhelmed with so many choices. And here I will try to help you on fixing them. So here I will share what worked for me. But again, there's a disclaimer. Whatever worked for me doesn't necessarily mean it will work for you. Do whatever works for you. The circumstances or context for you might be a little different for me. So there is no need to replicate exactly every single step that I share here. Get that high level idea, get that high level context, and then proceed. Okay, so now things are heating up and we are getting into the meat of the session. So bear with me. So step one. So this is a 10-step journey that I will focus on. So step one, focus on a single cloud to start with. In hindsight, this was my best decision. Learning one cloud well enough is extremely difficult, let alone two or three. Over time, you might learn others, but to start with, it is very important to start with a single cloud and get kind of accustomed to this cloud ecosystem. And also, very frankly, most enterprises also heavily rely on a single cloud. Most of the enterprises I have worked with, they have been, say, for example, Azure centric or AWS centric with a little bit of the other cloud, a little bit multi cloud flavor, but mostly focused on a single cloud. So what did I do? I chose AWS. Why? Because at that time my company was working on AWS. But the tip is choose whatever your company is invested in. So if you're an Azure shop, go with Azure. If you're a Google Cloud shop, go with Google. So whatever your company is doing at that time, do that. Invest in that cloud and just keep your focus on that single cloud. Don't get overwhelmed with two to three clouds. So this is the first step. What was my second step? Watch level 100 videos on YouTube. So this is actually the truth. This is what I did. For the first month or two, I did not even log in once to the AWS console. Not even once. I did not even have an AWS account. I just watched hundreds of getting started or level 100 videos. Since I was ramping up on AWS, the reInvent videos were a good start. If you're ramping up on Azure, you might see the, for example, Azure Friday, Microsoft Ignite sessions. But one thing that I did at this stage was I focused more on official vendor or conference videos rather than individual videos made by evangelists in their own channels. So they are also very, very good. But for getting started, I focused more on vendor videos. Why? Because I was relatively new at this stage. I wanted to rely on official trusted sources. Because at the stage, even if somebody pushes some wrong information to me, I don't have that idea to be able to understand, okay, this is not correct. So when starting, it is very important to start with official trusted sources. If you trust someone, if you trust their working, you can go with individual channels also. Okay. But anyways, this is the second thing that I did. This is my step two. Just watch 100 level 100 videos, getting started videos, conference videos, and from there you get that kind of an overall understanding about what the cloud is, what AWS does, what are some of the services. So keep in mind, this is from the perspective of somebody who doesn't know anything on cloud. So when in 2017 I started, I had zero idea of what the cloud is. So from that perspective, this level 100 videos gave me a lot of context and a holistic view. Step three is getting yourself a cloud subscription. So this is very important. So for the first 1 to 2 months, when you're just seeing videos, maybe reading a little few blogs, it might not matter. But at some stage or the other, you need to log into the portal to have a sense of what was displayed in those videos, right? Otherwise, we will not be able to relate. But the problem was most cloud providers ask for a credit card, right? And this is something many learners face an issue with. I have faced this myself. Many people think that, okay, if I share my credit card, what if I get charged a huge bill? What to do here? So, this is another important question I have been asked also by other people who are just getting started. And truly speaking, this is a really valid concern. So, true story and funny story. I once got a call from Amazon saying my AWS account, which was linked with my personal phone number, had an outstanding bill of around 22,000 USD. I was pretty shocked, to say the least. Thankfully, it was an account which was linked to my ex company, so they kind of figured it out by themselves, and I did not have to pay anything because I've already left the company. And this actually happened 3 to 4 months after me leaving the company, because maybe that account was created when I was in the company. My mobile number might have been provided for some reason or the other. And then maybe that account was near decommission. Somebody ran some Databricks clusters or something, maybe 24/7, and it resulted in a huge bill. And they called me up. But the thing is that there are actually very, very good solutions. So there is no need for a new person to get worried about this. So do something always. Place a CSP budget. So say for example you have a budget of $50. Create a budget in your CSP, cloud service provider. AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, everybody supports budget. So then you will get some sort of an alert if something is about to cross or reach your threshold. So this is one. Another thing is always turn off services if you're not using them. So this is also something. Most of the bills are for this only, that people create VMs and forget about them. And the most important thing, do not forget about your AWS account or Azure subscription or GCP project. So this is something that has happened with me also. I have used some email ID to create an AWS account. Then maybe for some work related reason, I was not even able to log in into it for maybe 2 months, 3 months sometimes. Don't do this. This is from where big bills come, right? So log in at least once every 2 to 3 days. Check the cost explorer page and get some idea of what resources you are running, how much it is costing you. It might just take 5 minutes of your time. So at least do this. So this is very important. After that, another very important thing is to leverage the CSP free tier. So most CSPs will provide you some sort of a free tier, whereby even if your credit card is provided to your CSP, they will not charge you anything for the cloud resources you create to consume, right? As long as you are within the free tier. So learn about this free tier clearly. Ensure you are playing by the rules. So the most important thing is that pay attention to what you are running. If you pay attention, if you're attentive enough, there is no reason for you to get worried about, okay, what happens if my bill is a huge bill? It will never happen. With whatever I told you and being attentive, it will not happen. Okay, so step three is good. So what I have done now, I have seen some videos, I have a subscription, but I still have to do something which will give me the 360-degree view. So level 100 videos are pretty good for an holistic, like high level view, but they will not let you learn something from scratch. They will not focus on the minute details. You need a full length course to get that 360-degree view into any new system. That is why even today, when I need to learn something new, I actually go for a full length course. So, for example, a few days back, I had to do something around metaverse, right? So, after listening to some videos and something on metaverse, I actually tried to find a course on Udemy on metaverse, right? A full length course that will give me that 360-degree view. A full length course actually gave me at the time the total overview of the cloud ecosystem. It instilled in me that confidence that I actually understood the concepts clearly. And every good full length course provider today, like a Cloud Guru or Linux Academy, even Azure, Microsoft Learn, they include hands on labs also to practice. So, this is very important. So, what did I do? Since I was on AWS, I quickly enrolled for one of the extremely popular course, which was,
Hi,
sorry,
Turja.
yeah,
Let me bring a question from studio. Sorry
okay,
for interrupting. So there's a question about that 100 level videos.
yes,
This is the question. Can you share the links of those 100 videos? So, after the session, please give that link and I will post that onto the channel. So,
perfect.
Subhasha can have access. But can you a little bit expand on that 100 level videos, just a little bit,
Yes,
and then continue? Thanks.
sure. So, see, by level 100 videos, I mean kind of like an introduction, because you have to understand the perspective from where I was. I have zero idea on cloud, right? I don't know what AWS is. I don't know what S3 is. I don't know how cloud storage works. I don't know how cloud billing works. So if you go to any AWS reInvent or anything like that, you will see actually they also categorize their videos like 100, 200, 300. Okay, so 100 is kind of, they will not get into a lot of depth. It's more from a high level analysis perspective. So even if you go to AWS reInvent level 100 videos on YouTube, you will get a lot of videos, even if you just do a simple search. But I will also provide you some of the videos that help me, and it will help you give that overall idea. So from level 100, you might go to level 200 for some stuff where you are a little bit more interested in, and level 300 might be a much more deep dive. So from some perspective, if you see this series that we are running with Cloud Lunch and Learn Group, this is a level 100 series. We are not going into that much depth of how to create an AWS or Azure VNet, for example, or how to create a VM, how to log into using SSH keys. No, we are at a high level describing how to start the journey. So this is in a aspect the level 100 I'm talking about. To get started with, this is very good. It gives you some sort of an idea, a holistic view of what cloud is, what AWS is trying to achieve, what are some of the services. And every single service has a level 100, a level 200, and a level 300 videos, and is very well defined. They also tell them during the video, you will see people also explain that this is a level 100 video. So if you're expecting a lot of code or deep dive, this is not for you. So try to start with those kind of foundational videos, because if your foundation is good, then the other things kind of you can build on top of it. I hope that answers the question. Okay, so since I was on AWS, I went with Ryan Kronberg's extremely popular course at that time. But today there are other alternatives like Stephen Marek's course and even Adrian Cattrall's course. These are really good courses for AWS. But if you're on Azure, you might even want to get started with some courses by Tim Warner. They're really good courses. Mike Peffier for cloud skills. So many options for GCP. Dan Sullivan is a good course. Ranga Karanam. These are some of the courses. There might be even more. But the idea is you have to go with a full-fledged course at some point of your journey. Because I opted for that course and it ran around 15 to 16 hours. So it gives you a 360-degree perspective of the cloud ecosystem. But some of the tips that I want to share is that at this stage, because you're just getting started, try to avoid courses which are very specialized. So don't go into a course for just for AWS security specialty or AWS networking. Try to avoid those courses. Go with courses that start from the absolute beginning and then gradually progresses into specialized domains. Also, another very important thing that I personally felt helped me was to go with a little bit well-known instructors and seasoned instructors at this phase, because the course delivery, the way they teach, is also very important. Why? Because this point I am just getting started, so I don't know a lot, right, about AWS or cloud or Azure. So I need my instructor to keep me engaged, right? And these people, they have actually done a good job of keeping audience engaged. They have actually done research on it, right? They know how to keep you engaged. They have spent a lot of time on learning these things, how the tips and tricks of keeping you engaged, what how audience can be retained better, and all of that. So at this point I tried to focus on instructors or educational academies who are a little bit well known, whose instructors are much more seasoned. But this is just a tip. You can go with whoever you like, but the idea is to go with a full-fledged course. Then what was the step 5 I did? I started following cloud or technology influencers on LinkedIn. This played a very important role in my overall knowledge building, because I've always been a keen believer in letting others show the way forward, right? If they're doing it, why should I do it? Let me follow them. And the only way to stay at par, okay, with today is basically to understand what your peers, what your colleagues, what your competitors are doing. So, what certifications did they pass? What conferences did they attend? What blogs did they read? So at this stage, I did a lot of research and I started following some really wonderful, talented people. And today I'm really indebted to some of them for who I am. So this is very important. I have followed many people. These are some of the well-known people in the industry like Eugene Liang, the certification king, Gregor Hoff, AWS enterprise strategist, Luca Mazzarella, Bishwajit Mohapatra, Satyen Kumar, many more. So there are many more influencers in the community today. So try to follow some of them, whoever you want, whoever your interests are aligned with. so that you can learn from them what they're doing. They will share very important popular stuff and you can consume them. But
Quick,
use LinkedIn.
quick
Yeah,
question here, Turja. Thank you for sharing those. Can you go back to that influencers?
sure.
Kind of people slide. Yeah, great. So I'll just add, that a couple of these folks I know personally, and I really thankful for the stuff that they were sharing online, because it inspired many many more people kind of to start their cloud journey, and even like be on the path to share what they learn, and plus the goodness of cloud computing that you can bring to your customers, right? Because what matters at the end of the day, what we learn, we need to look from the prisma, from the glass of the solution and customer that we want to deliver, and how we can bring the value. And in addition to these great people that listed here, I have a question, like that's apart from following these visionary people that you have here, does it make sense also follow some type of newsletters, YouTube channels, or subscribe to some RSS feeds? What's your, what's your opinion on that?
Yes, I'm 100% aligned. They also make a lot of sense. I personally follow some very popular newsletters, maybe the Uber engineering blog, the Spotify engineering blog. I actually follow Luca Mazzarella's newsletter called Dear Architects. So the idea is, yes, it makes sense to subscribe to good sources of information, trusted, verifiable people who are active in the community and who are pushing a lot of good information. But at the same time, something we need to keep in mind is that we have to filter out the noise from actual consumable content, right? So just going ahead and following everybody might not make sense, because then you will get a lot of clutter in your newsfeed and you will not know, right? I mean, with 24 hours a day you cannot do a lot, right? So you have to kind of focus. So for example, if you are into cloud native, so you can focus on people who are working on cloud native technologies. If you are into architecture, you can focus on enterprise architects. You can follow enterprise architecture strategists and subtract that. If you are onto certifications, then there are some people who are extremely good and they can give you tips and tricks on certifications. So each of these people have their kind of niche. So where it is good to follow some standard people who are doing a lot, very well known people, but after that you can also focus on people who are kind of in your niche to speak, and that is what I've explained actually. So focus on people whose interests are kind of aligned with you. Do not go celebrity hunting. That is one. And check whether the LinkedIn accounts are active or not. Okay, so for example, there was somebody who was the CEO of Stack Overflow called Joel Spolsky. So at some point of time, his blog was extremely active, right? He used to write maybe 2 blogs, 3 blogs per week, but now it has kind of died down. So many times, some of these LinkedIn accounts also they do not stay that active, right? So try to regularly refine the list. Also, try to ensure that your news feed is not cluttered with noise. So the idea here is you don't have a lot of time, very frankly, and you need focused information. You cannot deal with a lot of garbage. You need focused information. So follow newsletters, follow YouTube videos, follow channels, follow anything which makes sense to you, but kind of keep it constant to your area of expertise or interest. Hope that answered the query. Moving forward to step 6. So now we are at this very important stage. So we have some knowledge of cloud from the high level videos. We have also done a full length course, right? We have an AWS account or an Azure subscription or a GCP project. We have done some hands on labs also as part of the full length course. We are following people, we are seeing blogs. But at some point of the other, we have to start our certification journey. But many will argue, right, that certifications are not a true judge of knowledge. I kind of agree also. But at the same time, in today's market with X jobs and 1000X applications, companies need a quick way to filter. And certifications do play a role here. So I started doing certifications in the later part of 2017. So I started with cloud in 2017 beginning. So after 6 to 7 months of playing around with cloud technologies, doing some full length courses, I actually got a little bit comfortable, and I then finished all my full length courses and I kickstarted my certification journey. What did I do? I always start with the most popular certification.
Hey Turja, just quick disruption here. We have a question from studio, and this is coming from Balaji, let me bring that. The question is, can people from testing background upskill or migrate into the cloud architect role?
100% they can. Nobody's stopping you, right? Many people have done that also, very frankly. Many people are, I am working with somebody right now who was a French teacher, 2 to 3 years back. He used to teach French, and now he works with me, and he's working on cloud topics, right? So it's possible. Just like I said, all roads lead to cloud architect. But I am not saying that it is extremely easy, right? You have to follow these steps, the kind of journey you have to put in a lot of effort. But no, don't let anybody say you that no, it is not possible, number one. And don't think that whatever you have learned based on your testing experience will go to waste. Nothing. If you have followed my step one, my part one, the only thing I focus there is that cloud is nothing new. The same architectural concepts play a role in cloud. So maybe you were doing a little bit penetration testing with Qualys earlier. Now we'll do some penetration testing on cloud native applications. So people who were from a security background, they were doing something maybe earlier with something else, maybe same kind of softwares, but now they are doing it in a cloud native. They are trying to protect Kubernetes pods. Earlier they used to protect VMs. Before that they used to protect physical machines. Similarly, networking. Earlier they used to work with Cisco routers. Now they are working with virtual route tables. So the main concept, the knowledge you have still stays 100%. So my answer would be 100%. Go start this journey. I wish you all the best, and I hope some of this content that I am sharing, some of these steps can actually help you on that also.
Great. And another kind of question from Subhash Bohra. Do we have a list feature in LinkedIn like we have in Twitter? So this is more like a LinkedIn question to me, but if you know, it's more like LinkedIn feature list question. Um, do you want to answer this one?
I don't understand by what do you mean by a list in LinkedIn? I mean, I have
So
no
probably
clue.
what he's referring to is just a guess. Like on Twitter, you have these things like you can create a list of something and add certain people there. So when they do something, they will appear under that list. You can it's kind of like a newsletter of people that you want to follow, and whenever they
Okay.
things
I'm
there,
not
you
sure.
get notified. In LinkedIn, you have groups if and plus hashtags, so you can follow those things that people are associated with. For example, for Cloud Marathoner, I created this hashtag and I tried to kind of inform my followers and people who want to learn about cloud. But on your end, it's kind of like following those individual. I don't think you can create a list, but you have a groups in LinkedIn, and you can look into those features. Maybe that's what you look for. Another question here again from Subhash, which is great. Bring those questions. We want to see them all. Is it worth doing the cloud resume challenge to get a job in cloud?
I actually covered this in next step, so I will come back to that
All right,
question.
cool. That's cool. Okay, go ahead,
Perfect.
please.
Great question, Shubhas. Thank you. Okay, so when I started, the question was what certification should I do? So I started with the most popular certification. So by far at that time, the most popular certification in AWS was the Solution Architect Associate certification. I think it is still by far the most popular certification across all CSPs. So there is a tip here also. It is very important to start with a kind of a certification exam that you can pass, and the chance of passing increases if you have more information readily available, because see, nobody likes to fail, right? Even today if I give a certification exam and I fail, I will not be happy. But back then when I'm just starting, it makes much more sense to pass, because say for example, if I failed one or two certifications exams in the first part of my journey, I might get demotivated and I just leave the journey, right? So it's very important to choose a certification exam that I can pass, and choosing a popular certification exam helps. Why? Because there is much more content available in the market. Okay, so that is what I wanted to say, that the first exam is something that you need to pass if possible, right? I mean, by need I mean you should try to pass, make your chances 100%, and do whatever you have to do that. But don't go for dumps, okay, because they are kind of meaningless. Most answers are wrong anyway, right? But rather go for sites where they explain the answer, and then they even link to the relevant documentation. So say, for example, they will answer the question, they will give a question, they will have the answer to the question, and they will link that question and the answer to the question with actual documentation from the cloud service provider site. So this is some trusted content. You can trust the veracity because you have a link to the actual site and you can go to that link and learn a little bit more, right? So some resources that help me. So I used VizLabs a lot. I still use it. Okay. So by far I have felt it is one of the best set of questions, right? And they keep it updated also, right? And you get lifetime access. So VizLabs is something. Recently I came across a site called Exam Topics. Okay, so this site is also something I like, but most of the official answers there are wrong. But the good thing there is the community based answers. So in every question, there is a community section. If you click on that community section, you can see people are kind of discussing the answers. They are giving links to why their answer is the correct answer. So you can go over that and you actually learn a lot from them. So this is another. And finally, Udemy, just like everything else, you can get some really good sample tests in Udemy in very less money, maybe 10 USD or even less. But yes, check the ratings and the comments before purchasing something. So this is just something that helped me. There might be something else also that will help you. The idea is to go with a sample exam. So practice tests are a must. This is something that I believe from the core of my heart. To pass a certification exam, you must do sample test. I actually feel that even a seasoned cloud engineer, say for example, a seasoned AWS cloud professional, okay, so they might not be able to pass the current certification exam even if they give it today, right? Say for example, somebody who is working on Azure, say 5 years, 3 years, they might also not be able to pass. Why? Because most cloud engineers only use a small subset. They focus on a small subset of the cloud services. But if you see an exam, it focuses on the entire 360-degree gamut of services, right? Which is impossible for someone to cover, right? Without practice. So this is something that I want to also focus on, that practice tests are a must. And in what order should you take exams? Again, this is something that I am just saying, this is something that I believe in. You don't have to follow this to the letter. Do whatever you're comfortable with. So how did I start? I started with Solution Architect Associate. Then I gave Certified Developer Associate. Then I gave SysOps. In Azure, I started with 104, AZ104, then 204. Then now I think it is 305. So whatever kind of is okay for you, start with that. Try to start with with exams which are kind of, you can consider, more popular, so that I get a little bit more content on those exams and it helps me to get started. But now I like giving beta exam because right now I'm in that mature stage. But when I started, I did not want to take much chances, right? I wanted to pass those certification exams because I felt that, say for example, I fail in the first 2 to 3 exams, then I might get demotivated and I might leave this journey altogether. So again, there is another myth that I want to debunk here, that cloud certifications do not matter. So cloud certifications might not be a true judge of your knowledge, but they still serve as the dominant way that a recruiter determines whether they should select a candidate or not. It's still the dominant way today, and it helps you get a seat on the table. So true story, when I was in 2018 and I was kind of looking for that cloud job, I had applied to a firm called New Desic. It's a good firm, mid-sized firm based in Hyderabad. The recruiter called me and asked me, do you have the AWS Certified Developer Associate certification? At that time, I only had the AWS Solution Architect Associate certification. But on the call, I lied and I said, yes, I have it. Okay. And they said, okay, but it's not in your CV. I said, I just passed the exam, so I have not yet updated my CV. Let me share you my CV in 1 to 2 days. The moment I stopped the phone, I left the phone, I scheduled my AWS CDA. I was already preparing for it. I just scheduled it and I passed it. And then I went ahead with the interview. So this is very important because people are actually asking you, are you certified? Similarly, when I was interviewing for my second firm, which was in Accenture, in my second round, I still remember that my interviewer had actually called me and said, do you have any AWS certifications? At that time I had 4. So I said 4. And believe me, after that answer, he did not ask me a single more question. For that one, he started asking about team building and other stuff. And even today, I go and see job descriptions in LinkedIn and other job sites, and you will see that cloud certifications are sometimes even branded as a must, and most times they are branded as a good to have. So cloud certifications actually matter. At least they matter to get you that interview. So don't think that okay, I will just learn cloud and somebody will give me a chance. No, try to do as many certifications as possible. Start with the easy ones, and then kind of when your metal goes up, you start kind of giving those a little bit tougher exams, like say for example AC 305, where you can even go and check enhance contents for that, or for example AWS Solution Architect Professional or Google Cloud PCA. So those are kind of a little bit tougher, but go on that journey, start giving certification exams. So this was step 6. We are kind of reaching some good content here. So now we are step 7. So start your interview journey. At this point, start giving interviews, start applying for jobs.
Could
If I apply for
Yeah.
20 jobs, maybe
Hi, Turja. Before you dive into step 7, I have a few questions that I want to bring from the studio. And one of them
okay.
is more like an opinion question from Subasha, and then we have a question from Alan. So the question from Subash, sorry, is there's like different tutorials of Dojo, from Stefan Marek that you mentioned, but there
True.
are also like other ones that are from, in AWS from Alan Rodriguez in Azure and stuff like that. So which ones do you recommend? Basically,
So
do
see,
you find them good?
tutor, yeah. So
Hmm.
Tutorials Dojo is I think by John Bonso. It's an excellent kind of thing. Okay, so go
Hmm.
for it. I did not when I started. This was not there, and they mostly focus on AWS. I don't know whether they have started on Azure right now. It's good.
Hmm.
And Stephen Merrick, I have already said he's an excellent person, and I feel his tests are good, and but his content is much better. So
All
again, the
right.
point here is whatever works for you, but check the ratings, you check the comments. Stephen Merrick, I think, is 4.5 rated, so he's a extremely good kind of. And John Bonso is also very popular, so go for that. And also regarding Gordov's comment, yes, Alan Rodriguez, I know him. I have not done his course personally, but
Yeah.
he's also hugely highly rated person, right? So again, go. The perspective that I want to do is do whatever you want to do, but do at least one full length course. You might
Hmm.
do two, you might do three, but at least one. And also do a few sample tests, whether it's from Viz Labs, whether it's for Stephen Merrick, exam topics, does not matter that much. Do some sample tests and focus on stuff where you get an answer with a link to the documentation.
Sure. Great. And another question coming from Alan Florence is, how do you get practical experience of all the Azure components and understand how they should be used and deployed securely, as there are multiple choices for any given solution?
Yes. So see, there is no easy answer to this. A test will prepare you, kind of a full length course or sample test will prepare you for 70%. But then you also have to do a little bit deep dive. If you have a gig in your current company where you are working on something, try to get into it. Say, for example, somebody is doing on a migration, try to get into that project. There is no substitute even today for actual real life experience, right? That is why cloud architects are paid a lot of money, because they have that real life experience. But very frankly, not always you will be able to get that. So you have to do with whatever you have,
Hmm.
right? And the
Sure.
next best thing is that full length course. And I will also in my next step show you something else on creating applications. This can also actually help you. I will show you some sample applications you can get started with. But I understand there are some architectural questions also where having prior experience really helps. So if you get prior experience, very good. But say, for example, you are working as a Java developer on an on-prem system and nobody is giving you that experience, right? So what do? You cannot wait, right? When I will get that offer of a job, of something in my current company. So in that case, these things are kind of like a good substitute for you.
Yes, great. Thank you for the insights. And I'll just add that, based on what you are trying to learn, there are different, I would say, experts or people who made the name on doing the great course. So one of them is Stephen Merrick. I heard a lot about him on AWS courses that he created. There's also, courses on cloud. Google. No, it's uh, it was called First Linux Academy, or I'm missing.
Linux
So there's
Academy.
like this Cloud Guru, right? So Cloud Guru kind of get them all. So basically, in Cloud Guru, you get another set of good kind of authors. But I would say, how you would know it's good or bad course is usually try to look into the reviews and how many people put the review and how helpful was that course for them. And plus, in addition to getting those kind of architect experience on top of that, as Turja mentioned, just doing certification is just the first step to understand what's there. The actual work starts when you try to transition your day-to-day work and put them into the cloud as an architect, where you take into account different pillars to make it resilient, reliable, available solution, right, that scales. So that's where you want to kind of focus. And one of the easiest things that I did on my end was that, for example, I took the WordPress. Okay, WordPress itself as a solution, blogging solution, consists of multiple components, including the database. So you can just try to put that into your cloud solution and see, how it will work, you know, and then look into all the options that you want to introduce for scalability. And that's kind of like just a few cents there. Anything else you would like to mention, Turja?
No, no, you are correct. And regarding kind of like WordPress, I actually have that step also. So
Hmm.
I will discuss those kind of solutions, and you have given a very, and that I will also add as an idea. So
Cool.
we will reach there in, I think, 3 to 4 minutes.
Great. Good.
So okay. So onwards on our journey. So in step 7, so say for example you will apply for 20 jobs, maybe 5 to 7 would interview, but that is okay. These interviews actually turned out to be the best source of knowledge for me, as I could kind of understand the gap between what I knew and what the industry needed. So between 2017 and mid 2018, you will not believe it, I might have set for more than 30 interviews, surely 20 to 30 interviews. Some of you might not actually even be looking for a job, but from my perspective, it might still make sense for you to sit for the interviews, because there is no better way to validate your knowledge. Today, there is no other way to validate whether what you are learning is aligned with what the industry is expecting you to do. You might have 3 AWS certifications, 4, but still you might not get a job because you are not aligned with what the industry is expecting you to do. So that is very important. And while giving those interviews, okay, I actually started getting a few job offers. I got one from New Desic, which I kind of rejected. And but then I got one from Accenture where I actually joined. So that was also a validation that I was on the right track on my journey. So 8 months back, I had zero idea of cloud. But on my journey, after doing all of these small, small things that I'm discussing, after 8 months, I actually landed a job in a premium company on cloud. So this meant that I was on the right track. So start giving interviews. This is very important. But now this is the step 8 where we were kind of discussing, and here I will address both the WordPress thing and also the cloud resume thing. So creating and deploying an application on the cloud is a great way to learn and at the same time demonstrate that knowledge to the world. But the question that most comes is that what should I create? Right? What is it? How should I get started? What should I create? So I wanted to choose something that was easy enough for me to create, that would not be a full-fledged, very complicated application, but at the same time, it should be interesting enough so that I can show it off. It does not need to be extremely functional or a useful application, but it still needs to be kind of appealing, right? It should not be just like a hello world or a hello from engine server like an application. It should do something at least, no matter what small it is doing. So here's some ideas, and as I said, is that, and the question was also right on the cloud resume challenge. This is an excellent resource to start with. What is it? Whatever resume you have today, deploy it on the cloud. And I had actually done that, and I would have been able to show you, but my domain expired 2 to 3 years back, and I have not renewed it. Very frankly, today I don't need that kind of thing because I have already working on cloud for a long time. But it's a very good thing for people who are just getting started. So you can start with this cloud resume challenge.dev. This is something that was kind of the brainchild of Forrest Brazil, who was at that time in A Cloud Guru. Now he's the head of content in Google Cloud. So that is something you can get started with. Just a sample application, sample web page where you see your CV. And when somebody is asking you for your CV, you actually give that link. There you also give a download button so that people can also download your actual CV. You can give a contact us button so that if somebody clicks on that contact us, you get an email. And all of that thing you can do. And it should be a completely cloud-based solution that you can easily deploy. Another option would be to create an easy to use to-do app. Again, a very simple application where you can just write a few to-dos, show that, okay, this is done, this is not done. Another very simple application could be a very simple voting app that allows you to choose between two people, say between, for example, Barack Obama, Donald Trump, Russia, Ukraine. So something like that you can choose. Very simple application, very, very simple application, but has some higher purpose, and it gives you some kind of an interesting UI and feedback. So it's just not a hello world, a little bit better than that, but still not very complicated to do. Again, another thing here is what Elhan mentioned, is to host your own WordPress site. So I work with somebody called Chirag, who is also very active in this cloud community, and he has actually his own WordPress site hosted, I think, on a Kubernetes engine. Right. So this is also very interesting, to host your own blog with your own domain. Very, very interesting challenge and very easy to get started with. But when you go to the interviewer and show him that, okay, this is something you have created, and very frankly, out of all of this, the resume gives the most impact. So if you have limited time and you want to get started with, I would suggest you the resume. But in case you want to do more, then you can do a to-do app, a blog, a voting app, whatever.
Quick thing
Again,
here, Turja, before we go far away. That were really awesome points about putting something there, right? And most people can get confused that they want to do something very big. It's a cloud and start with big idea, but the simple thing here is that you need to start with the simple steps and see how they work, because by mastering your simple things, fundamentals, so to speak, of the cloud and services that you're trying to learn, that's how you get into the game. You get into understanding them and how they are connected and working together. So don't try to boil ocean at once. Try with the small steps, do your simple practical things and then tie them up to the real things that are small. Like again, create a challenging kind of app, try to host that there and then put some load on it, see how it scales. And do you understand how the cost is going to be affected with that, or how you can introduce caching so that there's like less data coming out of your data storages, so it will it will not, because when you don't use certain things in the cloud, they are very costly. But there is a way, there's a design, there's architecture to kind of reduce those costs. So you need to kind of focus a little bit on that. But in addition to that, I have another question. It's about like infrastructure professionals who are coming from that infrastructure background, IT infrastructure background, who don't have that much coding experience. So how they can work on creating those applications. I know that you mentioned some of them, but what would be a good switch for them, because they are
yes.
coming from that mindset? Go ahead, please.
True. So, for example, for people who don't have a lot of front end experience, maybe not a lot of JavaScript, HTML5 programming experience, so what should they do? Right. So, there are many good sample applications where the code is completely open source. So, you just go to GitHub, you just do a Git clone, you get the app, and then you can the next step is just to run it. You don't have to change even a single thing. Obviously, knowing front end, knowing programming will help you. But if, for example, you are not that expert into it, there is still a way, right? You can get somebody else's code, just change a little bit attributes here and there, and you get your app up and running. So here, for example, I will just do one thing and I will show you something. So if you see this one second, let me go to that slide. Yeah, this one. So this is a site. So if you go to this site, this is actually a site that I created for this demo for today's talk. So it's a very simple site. I have hosted it on Azure Kubernetes service. I have not written a single line of code for this site, not a single line. I git cloned from a Microsoft repo. I just changed, it was cats and dogs. I just changed to Azure and AWS. Nothing I have changed, and it's a completely fully functional application, so you can work on it. What is your favorite cloud? Say somebody says Azure, so the moment you click on Azure, this thing is increasing. It is 7, this is 8. Say for example AWS, this is 3. You can reset, everything becomes 0 0. Again Azure, AWS, Azure, AWS. And the state, where is the state maintained? It's maintained in a Redis cache. So if you, for example, you run it again in some other, even in a incognito window, it stays the same, 2 2, just like here, 2 2. So this is something I just wanted to show off the bat, that you don't need, for example, a lot of coding knowledge to deploy this app. I just did a git clone and I deployed it. I have coding knowledge, but I did not use it at that level. So so there is nobody preventing you. So if you have that kind of unquenching thirst in you to do this, nobody can stop you. But yes, learning a little bit of code will obviously help you in your journey, and doing a little bit of programming from time to time will actually make you a better architect. I personally believe that. But to get started with, just to get started and not to get overwhelmed by a lot of things, Just do a git clone of a sample application just like I showed and run it on your infrastructure, right? That is a good thing to do. I hope that helps. But anyways, so at that time, I created my site. I mapped it to my Cloudflare domain, and I used it. I showcased that site to my during my interviews. It actually helped push a positive perception of my knowledge to the interviewer. And I personally feel many of the jobs that I got for that thing also. That yeah, this guy has actually done something. He has taken that initiative to deploy his resume on a website, whatever be the compute. It can be AWS, it can be Azure, it can be Kubernetes. I at that time was mostly working on AWS, so I used AWS S3 for a static site. I used DynamoDB for the data. I used a Lambda function for getting the data, and AWS API gateway for exposing the API. But the overarching idea I wanted to showcase is that I created something myself during the interviews. So this is also very important. This I have already shown. And step 9 is focus
And
on
quick question here, Turja, before you start on step 9. So we have some questions in the audience. So please, make them coming. They are always welcome. And this is a question from Balaji that is coding or scripting knowledge required for cloud architects?
fine. At some point of time it will help you. That is something I believe, but it's not needed. Okay, so for example, I work in the EY cloud architecture practice, right? And there are many people who work with me who are more experienced than me, who are also working as cloud architects, who don't have not done any actual hands-on coding, but they still know scripting. So I personally believe that most of the infrastructure engineers have understand scripting, at least even if they might not understand data structures that well. Maybe they're not full-fledged programmers, but they still understand scripting. They must have written some PowerShell script or some shell script or some Python script to maybe take a backup of an EC2 VM also, whatever be the instance. So that helps. But yes, programming actually helps in most of the cloud interviews I have given. And this is something I will also focus on part 3, guys. Actual interviews, what I have faced is basically there have been coding interviews also. So even if they're very simple interviews, they have asked me to write a little bit pseudocode maybe, but yes, they have asked me some sort of questions, some simple questions like, say, for example, reversing a linked list. Okay, or for example, something to do with a stack, or for example, adding to very big integer numbers. So some of these questions I will actually also discuss on part 3, where I will actually conduct a kind of a mock interview. But anyways, yeah, it matters, it helps you. I will not say it does not help you. I will not say not knowing will completely prevent you, no, but at least do a little bit of scripting. If not full-fledged programming, do some scripting, Python scripting, PowerShell scripting, shell scripting, whatever. Do some scripting, and then maybe in future you can move on to programming. Is there anything else, Elhan? Any other
They are
question?
all great points. I will just add that scripting is something that it's part of the automation, right? As a cloud architects, you need to be part of the automation. That's where value is. That's where companies are looking forward. Because with the manual things through the console or anything else, it has certain limitations that you would see hitting very soon. And this automation is the power that every organization want to see in the cloud. So keep in mind that learning even like learning coding skills like Python or scripting, especially for the cloud architects, this is actually important. I mean, if you don't know how to deal with those things, it's going to be harder for you to suggest automation or give this vision how this your cloud architecture is going to be cost effective without automation, right? So another question, Turja, which I want to bring is from Subhash, and it's more about focus. As you said, there's a lot of things going on, in the social media, a lot of different posts, and it's very easy to get out of the track, right? So the question here is more like, okay, how he can stay focused. Uh, is it more like focus more on creating few apps and then starting the cloud resume challenge for himself, kind of doing that thing, or how due to the however due to the day job I feel sometimes I lose the traction and feel less confident. So what would be a suggestion for the Subhash?
Yeah, so see, the idea is very simple, right? You have to do it. I mean, it all comes from that realization that, okay, I need to transition. So that realization is the most important factor, as I trying to say. If you have that realization, then you will have that urge to do it. right? So see, your day job will not give you an opportunity to do it, right? Your manager will not say, no, I want you to learn cloud, so I will not assign you work. That will never happen. Never. You might get, if you're lucky, you might get an Azure or AWS kind of a initiative or a gig. You might not even get that, but that should not prevent you from doing anything, right? For example, if you see Yujun Liang, who is kind of the certification king, he was a Java developer. Right now he is kind of the most certified person on the earth, I think, right? So the idea is that he used to say that he used to read at night, because there is no other way. He has to do his stuff. Your life will not pause for you to learn cloud. Nobody will pause. All of your activities, your personal commitments will stay the same. They will keep on getting more complex. You have to find time, and yes, focus. So the first point that I said is very important, to not get overwhelmed, right? So start with the basics. If your basics are good, and start with a simple, say, set a target. Okay, I will pass AWS Solution Architect Associate exam in 2 months. Set that target. Don't start, if you see a post on cloud native, on Kubernetes, don't get into that post, because that is not in your scope or radar right now. First pass the AWS Solution Architect, then maybe do a little bit of that. So keep it focused, don't get overwhelmed. This is the two things. And obviously your day job will stay. You have to do whatever you want apart from that if you want to change into this. And there are some lucky people who get to do cloud as part of their day job. Then there is no problem, right? But if you are not one of them, then you have to take that extra effort, extra initiative, and that will only come if you have that realization, that drive, that unquenching thirst to get that job, to get that role, that dream kind of role for you.
Those are really awesome suggestions, and I will just add into that. In terms of learning, it's investing in yourself, right? And the cloud is a journey that never ends, and it's more like a marathon to me. That was one of the ideas of cloud marathoner, is that when you start this cloud journey and you want to become cloud architect, or you want to help the people and organizations to use this power of the cloud, then you need to embrace that idea that I have to learn every day, because these cloud technologies and services, they evolve every day. It's not like stable past that's going to stay same for 2-3 years. No, that's not the case. Every quarter, every other months, you would see that new features are added. Certain services are deprecated, or those services may even be replaced with even better ones. And sometimes rebranding will happen. If you learn the things, for example, that's very common in some cloud solution providers. When they come with much more capable capabilities, sometimes they join forces and the name of the service changed. But the idea here is that focus more on the what you are trying to achieve. Don't jump from one set of objective to another. And that was a good thing. If you are trying to learn automation in the cloud, right, and your focus is on the, for example, your focus on the application services, and you are not trying to containerize the things and run the containers, and don't jump into Kubernetes because you just saw that it's a shining piece there, because that itself is very I would say it's a complex product, even though there's a lot of simplification behind. It's not everything that you are trying to learn will take time. So try to focus your time, know what you are learning and why you are doing that, and
True.
then you would be more focused. And again, like, thank you for that notes, but focus is very important. Without that, without continuous learning mindset, it's going to be very hard to you know and challenging to be in this world.
True.
And another question here from Bakshi. I believe you kind of mentioned that, but I will bring it. Is DevOps knowledge also required for a cloud architect for an interview?
See, yes, I mean, in a sense, for the cloud architect interview, if so, there are two things, right? I mean, if you are getting started onto cloud, you might not think that, okay, I will first get that cloud architect kind of a role, right? You might just get kind of like a starting on cloud system engineers kind of a role. So that is one kind of mindset. Then another mindset is kind of like getting a DevOps architect or a full-time cloud architect role. There, DevOps actually plays a huge, huge role in today's market. There is no denying that, right? So if you have that capability, you can showcase that. More power to you, right? Again, it's also, but it's a vast topic in itself, right? I mean, it's not also something small. Just like Kubernetes is a vast topic. So does cloud native help you in getting a job? Yes. Does Kubernetes help you in getting a cloud architect job in today's market? Yes. But does that mean I can learn it completely when applying? No, maybe no, right? I only have, just like Ellen said, right? You have 24 hours per day. You have your day job, you have your personal commitments. You cannot learn everything. So you have to focus on something. Even if something is important, you might not be able to learn that at that level. But yes, having a level 100 overview of the system. When I interview candidates, I don't, for example, I ask them, okay, what is a GitLab self-hosted runner? But I ask them, what is the difference between continuous integration and say continuous delivery, or continuous delivery and continuous deployment? So whether they're aware of that high level thing, I obviously want to understand, but I might acknowledge that they are not, it's not possible for everybody to know everything. Today somebody might come and ask me maybe how to run EMR clusters. I will not be able to answer that, right? Or maybe how to run hyperledger clusters on cloud. I will not be able to answer those blockchain stuff, but I at a high level know what blockchain is, so that I can do a little bit more deep dive into it when required. So that foundation again is very important. And yes, DevOps will help you. If you are interested, obviously go for it. Nobody should stop you from that. There are many certifications focused on DevOps also. You can do them and they will really add value to your career also.
And I will add what to just said. No, so forget about having this mindset. Learn it all. That's not gonna happen in cloud. Focus more into learn as you go. Meaning that if there is a need that you have to learn, then put your energy there because that's your work. That's your basically challenge as a cloud architect. It's not about learn it all. So forget about that. Learn as you go. Learn every day the things that matter for your goals and for your organization. Thank you.
Perfect. So very quickly, focus on continuous learning. Here I wanted just to show, for example, this is not to brag or anything, that I used to hold around 45 certification badges, even after I started my cloud journey in Accenture. So I have continued that phase of continuous learning. Every time I see something, I want to learn it. But one very important thing here, which I don't approve of, is to learn anything and everything because it is free. This is something even I am guilty of. In 2017 to 18, I used to do any and every free certification that I could get my hands on. Why? Because I thought it was free. But actually, there is nothing called free. I was paying for it with my time, which is the costliest resource of all. So again, here I want to focus on what Elhan was also saying. So put a ring fence around what you need to learn and focus on those topics only. Just because Kubernetes is giving a 80% discount on say KCNA exam and you are preparing for AWS Solution Architect Associate, don't buy that certification exam and divert yourself. No, they will have all of those vouchers even in after a year, even after 6 months. Put a ring fence around what you want to learn and focus on that. Do that exam, then do the other. Do not try to manage multiple things at once. So this is something that I wanted to say. And this is the last step. Okay. Focus on developing T-shaped skills. This is the most important thing. And I think Elhan was also kind of attributing to it. So if you see a T, what is this? This horizontal line is a cross-discipline expertise. So this is, you know, a little bit about DevOps, you know a little bit about scripting, a little bit about infrastructure. Maybe you know a little bit about NoSQL databases, document DB. Maybe you know a little bit about scalability. Whatever it is, you know a little bit, level 100. That level 100, so that you can explain to somebody else. That is the level you should have across everything. But then you build a deep expertise. Maybe on AWS you build a deep expertise, maybe on AWS infrastructure, maybe on GitLab, maybe on Jenkins you are building a deep expertise. So these T-shaped skills is what will help you, and this is something you always have to keep in mind, because in today's market you need that cross discipline expertise also, along with that deep expertise on a single field. So for example, if you consider my career, my deep discipline expertise is on infrastructure as cloud and DevOps. That is what I am much more comfortable on, and I've been doing for 3 to 4 years. But I also do a lot of other things. I know how a API works. I know how a API gateway management works. I know the difference between, say, for example, service mesh and API gateway. I can create a Kubernetes cluster, for example. So all of those I need, but I am not a Kubernetes expert, right? I want to be one day, but today I am not. My deep discipline expertise is not in Kubernetes, but that does not mean I cannot explain the difference between load balancer versus cluster IP versus node port. No, I can explain that also. So that is what I'm trying to say. So focus on developing T-shaped skills. And with that, I end kind of my 10 talks, and I am already, I think we are over our time. So very quickly. So where we are in this overall journey. So in first part, which was part 1, we got the basics right. What is cloud? What is cloud architecture? Why is architecture important? What is cloud native architecture? Why should we want to become architects? So this was part 1. In part 2, I discussed concrete actionable steps. So the 10 steps that I showed you that actually helped me in my journey, and I tried to give you examples from my career, my history, so that you could relate to it. And in part 3, which will be in 1 week, I will discuss sample interview sessions and guidelines. So, what in detail I will discuss? So, I will discuss actual questions that can come in a cloud architecture interview based on my experience of attending 30 to 40 interviews. We'll go over sample scenarios and use cases and discuss possible solutions and approaches. We will conduct mock interviews and discuss how to handle difficult interview sessions. Finally, we will conclude with what are some resources or links that we can refer to for more information. So, with that, please join me if you are free next week for How to Become a Cloud Architect Part 3, which is scheduled on 16th March, same time as today. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Turja. I also put the link on the chat for this part three session, and please join that session. In addition to that, I'll just say thank you everyone for participating today, and thank you our speaker Turja for continuing this session on how to become a cloud architect. And I'll just put this QCR code and link for learning materials if you want to dive deep into the what's the how does cloud architecture look on Azure side and how you can get started with that. So please, do that and subscribe. And plus, register on a link for our next week session on how to become a cloud architect part two. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, our speaker. So hope to see you next time. Give thumbs up to this video. Okay, it's going to be loaded onto Cloud Launch and Learn YouTube channel. And have a great day, everybody. Thank you, Turja. Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you.